Distant crickets chirped in song as the forest gently whispered in the night, though this was not the usual night song that was accompanied by the gentle, hushing breezes of the summer air, but instead with the slow, deliberate breath of someone or something ancient, listening closely to its surroundings. The moonlight shimmered between the branches and leaves of the forest canopy, dancing with the shadows against the forest floor, where the soft, drifting, bioluminescent glimmers of magenta, blue, and violet fey light sparkled, like tiny stars that had wandered too close to the earth that night. There, in the middle of it all, a small figure stumbled between the gnarled roots of massive oaks and meandering trunks and overgrowth of fey maples. It was a young girl. She appeared to be no older than 8 or 9 years old, her bare feet pressed hard with each step into damp moss upon the rocks on the ground. Her cloth pant legs were ripped and torn, knees scraped and streaked with dirt and dried blood. Her grimy, tangled brown hair draped down her face in knots as a small nose and beady amber eyes peered out from between the clumped-together strands. Her breath came in short, quick bursts. She appeared abnormally pale white, as if against the cold, even though the air around her was warm. She clutched onto a small piece of fabric, holding it close to her chest, a piece of her mother's tunic, the last thing she had grabbed from home before fleeing, though home would soon feel like nothing more than a word she'd forget for a long time. In her other hand, she held a small, empty leather satchel with the name Tahlia etched into it. Her name was Tahlia. Tahlia had been calling out for her parents for hours. The sound of her own voice didn't seem to make it far. It felt strangled by the surrounding shadows of the forest. She didn't know where she was, nor how far she had wandered, only that she was alone now. Alone and scared. A softened sound caught her attention from behind the foliage to her right, a familiar sound, water trickling over stone, a stream, and she was very thirsty. She parted the small leaves and branches in her way with one arm and the opposite shoulder, pushing her way through toward the water source with her dried lips pursed firmly together. Without hesitation, she flopped over onto her wounded knees and hovered her face only inches away from the stream's flowing surface. The ripples didn't offer a perfect reflection, but they showed enough to make her tear up. She could make out that she was filthy and battered. She frowned and slapped her palm into the water surface to rid it of the unwelcome sight. She was here to drink, not reflect. She buried her face in the water and took a few big gulps before pulling her face up. She sat for a moment with a blank stare, holding her stomach with one hand as it began to rumble. Seconds later, the water forced its way back out. She immediately tried to drink again to quench the stinging thirst. She didn't understand that she was drinking too fast for a dehydrated stomach, and the second attempt ended with the same result. She was sick to her stomach again. However, this time her vision blurred and faded to nothingness as she toppled over from her kneeling sit and passed out. A void of hopelessness.
Against all odds, young Tahlia reawakened a few hours later, thirstier than before, hungrier than she'd ever been, and more alone than she had ever felt. In her feeling of loneliness, she grasped at the fabric she had against her chest. However, her weakened hand on the piece of her mother's clothing must have opened while she was unconscious. It was gone. Still laying, she looked to the stream. Her mother's clothing, it must have fallen into the stream and been carried off by the current. She could feel the choking grip of wanting to cry, but she was too dehydrated to form tears. The feeling of overwhelming sadness was there, but the waterworks were not. She clenched her eyes shut and rolled her head the other way. A droplet of water hit her cheek, startling her. She opened her eyes once more. Another droplet hit her in the face as she turned to look up. It was beginning to rain. Her body responded on its own, without thought, completely by instinct. She opened her mouth as droplet by droplet of water continued to fall as the gentle rainfall moved in. All that Tahlia could hope for was that the rainwater wouldn't make her ill again. Once the rainwater offered enough to half fill her mouth, she swallowed the water.
She repeated this another 2 times. The slow intake of water began to rejuvenate her body without the previous onset of nausea or illness. With newfound energy, Tahlia brought herself to a sitting position once more. She took a deep breath, held it for a few seconds, and then sharply exhaled before standing up. Only one objective occupied her mind. I have to get my mommy's clothing piece back.